When you get into your car and drive down the highway, the math is simple. You measure speed in miles per hour or kilometers per hour. You're measuring how far you travel across land in a certain amount of time. It makes perfect sense. But the moment you step onto a boat or strap yourself into an airplane, those rules disappear. Suddenly, nobody talks about miles or kilometers. Instead, the captain speaks in knots. But what is a knot? Is it just a fancy word for a mile? Is it measuring a rope? And in an age of GPS, satellites, and glass cockpits, why are we still using a unit of speed from the 17th century to fly modern jets? The answer involves a wooden log, a sandglass, and the shape of the Earth itself. Welcome to the story of ordinary things. Today, we're untangling the story of the knot. To understand the knot, we have to go back 400 years. In the 17th century, ships had no GPS, no radar, no speedometers. But knowing your speed was a matter of life and death. If you didn't know how fast you were moving, you couldn't calculate how far you had traveled. And that meant getting lost or crashing into a reef. So sailors invented something brilliantly simple. It was called the chip log. Here's how it worked. Sailors took a small piece of wood shaped like a slice of pie and weighted it with lead so it would float upright in the water. This wooden chip was tied to a long rope wound around a spool. But this wasn't just any rope. At very precise intervals, sailors tied actual knots into the line, exactly 47 feet and 3 inches apart. When the captain wanted to measure speed, a sailor would throw the wooden chip overboard. The chip stayed almost still in the water while the ship sailed forward, pulling the rope out. At the same moment, another sailor flipped a sandglass, usually timed to 28 seconds. As the rope ran through his hands, the sailor counted the knots. 1, 2, 3. When the sand ran out, he shouted, "Stop!" If 5 knots had passed through his fingers, the ship was traveling at 5 knots. That's the literal origin of the word. A knot was never a concept. It was a real knot in a rope. But here's the real question. Why were those knots spaced exactly 47 feet apart? Why not 10 feet? Why not 100? This is where history turns into science. On land, we use statute miles. A statute mile is 5,280 feet. A measurement inherited from the Romans, based on the distance a soldier could walk. But you can't walk on water. Sailors don't navigate using roads. They navigate using the Earth itself. The Earth is a sphere. A circle has 360 degrees. Each degree is divided into 60 minutes. Sailors made a genius decision. They defined 1 nautical mile as 1 minute of latitude. That meant the map and the ruler became the same thing. If a captain needed to travel 1 degree north, he instantly knew it was 60 nautical miles. No calculations, no conversions. By spacing the knots 47 feet apart and timing them for 28 seconds, the number of knots counted matched the number of nautical miles per hour. A knot wasn't arbitrary. It was mathematically locked to the geometry of the planet. Okay, that explains ships. But why do airplanes still use knots? When aviation began in the early 20th century, there were no aviation charts. Long-distance flights crossed oceans. So early pilots used maritime navigation. The same charts, the same stars, the same latitude and longitude grid. Pilots like Charles Lindbergh navigated the sky the same way captains navigated the sea. Using knots simply made sense. And there's another reason. Airplanes don't move across flat ground. They move across the curvature of the Earth. Using statute miles, a land-based measurement, makes long-distance calculations harder. Knots speak the language of the globe. They stay perfectly aligned with Earth's coordinates. So when a pilot says you're cruising at 500 knots, they're not using a fancy aviation term. They're using a system born from wooden ships, hemp rope, and sailors counting knots by hand. A unit of speed tied, literally, to the shape of the Earth itself. Cars measure speed based on walking. Ships and planes measure speed based on the planet. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden history of everyday things, hit like. It really helps the channel. And subscribe to the story of ordinary things for more stories hiding in plain sight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.